what was such an insightful moment for me was realizing that elephants and whales are the two mammals that go through menopause, and both elephants and whales after menopause are the leaders of their pods. They become the leaders. It's a matriarchal society, and that just gave me so much confirmation. And this is not at all to bash men or anything like that. I love men. It's just about balance. It's just about bringing balance. And I think the world needs more feminine principles. And so what I believe is happening is that we're just going through this initiation and we're in a new phase of becoming.
This is The Juice. Real conversations that squeeze the truth out of the heart-centered coaching world. Look, the spiritual space loves a filtered story. 7-figure screenshots, trust your feminine mantras, and perfect morning routines. But here, we pull back the highlight reel and talk about what's actually underneath. Hey, I'm Karla Marie. I'm a business coach, mentor, and strategist. I've been through it all. 25 years in, $1 million business, built in 14 months that feels amazing, and I know what's real and what's not. If you're into unfiltered honesty, spicy takes, and zero performative bullshit, stay. If not, this probably isn't your podcast. All right, beautiful. Let's dive in.
Cannot wait to start chatting to you. We've already had a full-on chat before. I need to introduce you to this amazing woman. Jennifer Harmony is a belief repatterning specialist and what many call a subconscious detective. I keep getting goosebumps every time I talk about you, Jenny. So Jennifer has 2 decades of experience and over 3,000 sessions delivered worldwide. Jennifer works with high achievers who've done all the right things and still find themselves stuck. Now, I don't like to take the floor when I'm doing an intro. I like to hear it come from your words. And what we did say before is this could go off in tangents. Audience, please know you've got 2 perimenopausal women talking to you. This could go anywhere, and it will. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Jennifer, take the floor.
Sure. Hey, Karla. Hi, everyone. It's so good to connect with you all in this way. And yeah, so what I do with my clients is I'm a subconscious detective, and I just love digging into people's brains to find out where there are limiting beliefs which have been created at a different point in time and are silently creating sabotage behind the scenes in people's businesses and their relationships, in their way of thinking. And what people experience is, I've done the therapy, I've done the coaching, I've done the healing retreats, I've microdosed all the things, but it just keeps happening. And so what I love doing is just finding where that belief was created, taking the emotional charge out of it, and allowing someone to create a new belief inside their own subconscious. And it's just the wildest thing to experience. People connect to themselves and feel confident, don't second guess their decisions anymore, and just feel they can authentically express themselves and just be themselves and really live life on their own terms. And Karla, we've already started talking about perimenopause because we're both just like, And that's what I really think this moment in our life is about really living life on our own terms.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. As I said, I just keep getting goosebumps because I really felt this urge to reach out to you. And I went, Jenny needs to come on. I have to tell my audience about how we met. It was 21 years ago in Rishikesh in India. We spent 10 days together. Do you remember that? It was on the banks of the Ganga. And it was the most magical time. And we stayed in touch on and off ever since. I think Facebook does that for you, doesn't it? And about 3 years ago, when I was going through the throes of separation from and Jenny knows my ex-husband too, we traveled together. Through my separation, it was Jenny's EFT videos on YouTube that got me through. I would go for a walk, I would cry in the park, tap it all out, and just bring myself back into the day. And I cannot express enough gratitude for that. It was really quite deep and amazing time in my life of growth. So yes, this is all about reclamation, I believe. When we were talking, you sent me this video which is going to be released by the time this episode comes
Yes,
out.
it will.
And I urge you to go and watch it. Yes. And it was all about your journey with perimenopause. So this episode is called Stepping into Your Authority and Growing a Successful Business as a Perimenopausal Woman. I know it's a long and big thing, but I'm sure that a lot of people listening here will be going, oh my God, I'm struggling. I don't know how to build a business like this. Do you want to just share anything about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm 46, and a couple of years ago, my idea of what perimenopause was going to be like was I was going to get hot a couple of times, and then I was just going to emerge as this butterfly because I've done 20 years of personal development and inner work, and I'm so in touch with my menstrual cycle, and I've been leading women's circles for 15 years, so I was expecting to just like breeze through it. I've been really lucky. I've got really good relationship with my menstrual cycle. So I was really not prepared to be like screaming because a Ziploc bag would not close and just like on the floor on my knees, and I was like, who is this demon? I think I need an exorcism because this is not who I am. I'm like calm and centered usually, and I can deal with my emotions and my reactions really well. And there's always this witness and consciousness inside of me. And if I just tell you all the symptoms I was dealing with, that's going to be the whole hour-long podcast. But I put on a lot of weight, and that was actually one of the things that was bothering me the least. It was 15 kilos. I don't know in what your audience is used to. I think that's maybe around 30 pounds. It was a lot.
Wow.
So then there was random things like my hair stopped being curly, but the fatigue, I remember dropping something on my bedroom floor and just looking at it like, where am I supposed to find the energy to pick that up? Like, I'm exhausted, and I knew I needed to eat well. So I'd want to go to the store and buy vegetables and fruits. And then I'd get back from there and I'd need to lie down for half an hour before I could even put them away in the fridge, let alone start preparing them and then cooking. I'm so lucky that I love my work, and actually giving sessions was giving me energy and uplifting me because I could really not do very much else. Some of the experts that I've listened to talk about perimenopause say one of the most identifying, like one of the ways of knowing is it perimenopause or not, is you just stop feeling like yourself. And I would see situations happening in my life and be like, I could usually deal with this level of stress very easily, and yet I absolutely cannot cope with this stress, and I couldn't sleep. So like all of that was going on, and I spent a year and a half trying with supplements and natural approaches, dietary changes and things like that, and that definitely helped. It was like really, really, really full on, and now I'm taking bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and it is a game changer, like such a game changer. And I never anticipated taking these sorts of things, but I feel like myself again.
Well, it is. We were just talking just before, and I've grown this massive business in the last year because I stopped doing things for other people. I want to talk about the positive parts of perimenopause, by the way.
Yes.
We'll talk about the negative
100%.
parts. Just because I know a lot of people out there are going to be like, yes, that's me. The things that changed for me, I used to love parties. I used to love being around people. I was asked to a party and I was like, fuck no, I do not want to talk. I love people. That's the thing. I really love people, but being in a party situation just does something to me internally. It's like, no, sorry, I can't do that. And I've become more just internalized, which is really, I think it's just maybe just conserving energy more than anything. I do resonate when you said it, don't feel like myself. I feel like that often.
So what I believe is going on is that we're actually being initiated into being leaders. And I've decided to see menopause as a complete initiation into a new way of being in this world. And it is an intense initiation. It's an extreme sport. It is not for the faint of heart. And Our brains are actually changing at this period. When you became a mom, your brain actually changed, and that was necessary from an evolutionary perspective so that you had all of this compassion and this care and this ability to sacrifice yourself to care for your children, right? And whether we've had kids or not, I don't personally, that's still the years that we've been in. And now we're entering a phase where we're not going to be fertile in that way. There's children's off the table. And so what is this new chapter of our life asking us to be? And I believe that the wisdom that we've got from the decades that we've been alive is what's needed to actually help steer the world in a better direction. And so I think we are becoming the leaders of this world. And what was such an insightful moment for me was realizing that elephants and whales are the two mammals that go through menopause, and both elephants and whales after menopause are the leaders of their pods. They become the leaders. It's a matriarchal society. And that just gave me so much confirmation, because I do think that, and this is not at all to bash men or anything like that. I love men. It's just about balance. It's just about bringing balance. And I think the world needs more feminine principles. And so what I believe is happening is that we're just going through this initiation, and we're not going to be as overgiving. We're not going to be as self-sacrificing. We're going to be clearer on what we want, what we don't want. And the old version of you loved parties, and this version of you that's the caterpillar in the chrysalis, that's like becoming the butterfly. At the moment, you don't like parties. Maybe when you become a butterfly again, you will. Maybe you won't. But at the moment, our brains are just changing. And so we're in a new phase of becoming.
I've actually got a lot on my plate right now. Anyway, I have my girls to concentrate on when I have them. I have my business, which is like my baby. I have plenty of connections through the week. And so any time that I do have for myself is precious, which, look, I love that. And when you were talking, I had so much come up in response to that. As a woman in business, being seen on camera, with all the anti-aging stuff coming up, and we're caught in the middle of knowing that we are coming into our wisdom because we're self-aware, everything. Also, just I don't know if you're aware of Chiron return, which happens around 50 as well, which is the wounded healer. How beautiful. It just marries up, doesn't it? But it's almost like this initiation of like, okay, I've grown up putting a lot of my, well, I have personally, in my appearance, in what I look like, and how I come across in society. And then you're met with all of this anti-aging stuff online. And then you know that this is the most amazing part of our lives where we can be initiated into. I have felt that resistance myself of, I don't want to show up today because I'm feeling really old. I can't make that video today because I don't like the way I look. I can't even possibly look at myself in the video today. And it has been a very conscious process to move past that, even because I know I have a lot of wisdom to share. And I hate the fact that I'm programmed that way. Have you felt that yourself?
A little bit, and I can really empathize. And there's definitely moments where I don't feel like recording or being on camera. What was a game changer for me was hanging out with someone who would have been traveling in India about the same time as us. And I met him in India, in Goa, and we had coffee. And I was looking at him, and he was maybe 5 years older than me. And he's like rugged and sexy and looks a bit like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. And he's got like all these lines and wrinkles. And I'm like, he looks like he's lived. He looks weathered. He looks like an adventurer. And I was like, I find him attractive, and he's lined and wrinkled and looks old. And I'm like, why would I not look at a woman and think the same thing? Why, if her face was covered in lines, would I not think she must have lived? She must have so many stories to tell. And I was like, yep, that's on me. Like, that's a belief that I can let go of. I can just find where that's been programmed in and let it go. And I think one of the reasons that what you're describing touches me less is because I've done so much work on just not taking society's BS around appearance being that important. I've got my own baggage with other things, but really just like, no, I'm going to live life on my own terms, and I'm going to look the way that I look. And then still in some moments where, I record YouTube videos, EFT and tapping YouTube videos. And yeah, there's some moments where it's just like, I realize I have to put eyebrows on. Otherwise I cannot edit my videos.
I didn't realize it because I actually didn't really start aging at all until 47. And so that's why I never thought that it was there until I started seeing the changes. And then I was like, oh, what's coming up? And I always do remember my mum saying, I'm too old to wear that. I'm too old to wear eyeshadow. I can't wear a top like that. I can't show my boobs. I'm wrinkly. Or you get invisible as you get older. And I always just went, fuck no. And I still have a very fierce fuck no. I'm going to be a fabulous aging woman. But there's that other side that's like, it's like a sadness of losing your youth as well.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to listen to that part of us that is sad and is grieving, because that's a part of us that needs some compassion and some reassurance and some love, rather than just like trying to suppress that part of us or be like, you're wrong. Like, to actually listen to that part of us, because yeah, we should grieve the fact that we're leaving behind a chapter of our life, but it's not because we're going into a new sad chapter where we're going to be so unattractive and everything's downhill from now. It's like, no, we're leaving behind one version of ourselves, and we're going into the unknown. We're in the mystery. We don't know. And we're existing in a society which already makes life pretty difficult for women. Let's just summarize the patriarchy that doesn't really have women's best interests at heart. And then we're also becoming aging. We're also becoming older because of that. But I think a lot of the times, if I catch myself thinking about the lines on my face or how I look, I'm like, nope, this is a fuck the patriarchy moment. And let's continue, because this is how I'm showing up. And the words that I have to speak and the message that I have to give is so freaking important that, yeah, it doesn't actually matter how many lines I've got on my face or how I look.
I do it regardless. I've turned up with my hair, just doing the grading and all of that. And I just went, yeah, it's a little golden glitter. I do find that I have had discussions with other business owners online, because we have to show our face, and the use of filters and all of the things to make us look acceptable. And I have done the same as you, Jenny, where Jennifer, do you like being called Jennifer or Jenny?
It's so cute because almost no one calls me Jenny anymore. And I'm like, this just testimony to how long we've known each other is that you actually call me Jenny, because almost no one, I love it. It's very cute. Most people call me Jennifer, but
I was calling you Jenny, and then I was like, Jennifer. I'll call you Jennifer, so it's all good.
Call me Jenny or Jennifer. I adore it. I adore it. Yeah. You and your audience are welcome to call me Jenny.
So we were talking about, this is really important as preceding our conversation and the questions that I have given Jennifer before, as we were preparing for this podcast. And a lot of this conversation here is quite impromptu, because I do believe it is super, super important, because it does hold you back. This is a really important time to step into your authority. As you know, everyone listening, I have my membership called Authority Era. I created that last year because it was like, fuck this shit. There's no longer apologizing for who you are. We are stepping into our fullest expression. And whatever that is for you. And that's why I love human design and everything. Tell everybody what your human design is, by the way.
I'm a 4/6 projector, an emotional authority, a cross of consciousness, right angle cross of consciousness, triple split.
Yes.
Did I get all of it? Yes. And I'm everything Virgo.
Triple split.
Triple split.
Everything.
Everything Virgo.
Virgo. Wow. Yeah. So coming as you're a perimenopause woman coming into your Chiron return, what are you no longer available for, both in business and in life? Because I think they both overlap.
Yeah, absolutely. So, something that's become really clear on my perimenopausal journey is just how much I was overgiving. I have 250 free EFT videos on YouTube. They're all free. And it's just, yeah, that's there. And it's beautiful. And I'm very happy to have created that. And I continued that overgiving in every area of my life, in my relationships and my friendships, with my clients, and just really just kept overgiving, overgiving, overgiving. And recently I had the realization that overgiving never leads to over receiving. It always just puts it out of whack. Overgiving never leads to over receiving. We want to give in a balanced way, and then we are able to receive more. And somehow it feels like you give too much and you actually diminish the amount that you're able to receive. I'm still fact checking that one, but yeah, so I'm just not
I've
available
experienced-
to.
No,
Yeah.
I think if you ask everybody out there, they probably would agree that that is the case.
Yeah. So that's something that kind of goes against a lot of the sort of more spiritual principles as well, of just like, because I'm a healer and I just want to share my light with the world, and I just want people to awaken to the love that's inside of them and connect to themselves. So I'm like, here's all my wisdom, have it for free and just run with it. And then realizing it's not a great business strategy, partly because it's overwhelming for people. If I just give everything that I've got, because it's just too much. And it's actually kinder to just be like, here's a teaspoon. Would you like a bit more? That I can give you a glass, and do you want a bit more? And it actually makes my message more digestible to people and easier to receive. And my message is generally connect with yourself, know yourself, accept every single part of who you are, love yourself, and get to know yourself. And then we can be authentic, change the relationship inside of yourself so that then you can shine on the outside. And yeah, so I think that was a really big piece of it, is not overgiving. And what that led to was actually claiming my authority. And I would never have, I have always, since I learned EFT and started working with people's subconscious and working with trauma, I've always been good at it. It's been 15 years I've been doing it. I know I'm phenomenal at what I do. And there was still this, thank you, there was still this part of me that was just like, be humble, keep it small, don't brag. In Oz, you call it the tall poppy syndrome, right? Which I love. So it was more like, oh no, keep it humble. I've given over 3,500 sessions. I am freaking amazing at working with people's subconscious. There is nothing that people can throw at me in a session which is going to knock me off my center, that is going to put me into a space of judgment. And I really just started to realize I am an authority in this. I'm an authority in limiting beliefs. I'm an authority in subconscious blocks. And letting go of some of the old stories. One of my personal stories is I don't really understand the science of how all of this works. So I had a bit of imposter syndrome around that. And I realized, you know what? No one's going to go to a Buddhist monk who's an expert in meditation and teaching people to meditate and be like, well, you have to be able to explain the science to me. Otherwise, you can't, meditate well. Or to a Formula One driver and be like, you have to tell me exactly how the car works. Otherwise, you don't know how to drive. And it's like, no, we can be really good at what we're doing without understanding the science and the mechanics of it. And so just letting go a little bit of what society tells us that we should do or that we should be, and actually just like, nope, this is who I am. And I'm freaking amazing at it. And do you want it?
Do you know that I resonate with that so deeply? When I was doing a lot of your EFT, and which led me to really making my own EFTs for myself. And I was like, okay, biggest shift in stepping into my authority was not to push away my dark. The thing that came out of doing your EFT was, holy shit, there's the reason why I haven't really gotten forward to where I wanted to be is because I always pushed that side away and always tried to be positive. And I know you've written this in your comments here. And I'm thinking all and manifesting, doing all the rituals, and why aren't I quantum leaping? And until I told myself the truth about myself and looked at every ugly nook and cranny of my psyche and gave myself grace for it, that's when I stepped into my authority. It was so huge. And your videos were the catalyst for it. So everyone, please go to Jennifer's YouTube channel and have a session with her. There is so much on there as well. As you said, there's plenty. You did say that, what do you believe about your niche that turned out to be completely wrong? And you said pretty much exactly what I just said, didn't you?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think a lot of it, well, first of all, wisdom used to be safeguarded. We are at a point in the world where we have access to every single spiritual tradition that ever existed. And so before, it was you had a mentor that would see if you're at the level and if you're ready for the information of our minds create our reality, right? And so what I think happens is we're getting Instagram sound bites of universal truths and spiritual wisdom, especially from people that it's not actually embodied in. And there's certain fundamental things that aren't actually locked in inside of people. And so, for instance, we're starting to realize that my beliefs and my inner world creates what's happening on the outside world. We can say that's true. And then if someone doesn't have self-connection, if they don't have self-awareness, if they don't have self-love and aren't able to give themselves grace, then what happens when things aren't going well in their world? It just becomes a way to beat ourselves up. I'm doing this and I'm a terrible person. And then we go further into shame and further into self-hatred. And I would say that certain principles, it's kind of good that they're kept away from us until we have certain things locked in. We can just turn all of our spiritual wisdom and our awareness into another reason to attack ourselves and be down on ourselves. And what I would just really love is what you said before, which is for people to realize that their pain they're experiencing, the so-called negative that's inside of each of us, I see these as gigantic neon signs that are just pointing to a part of us in need of love. It's just pointing to that little shadowy crevice inside of you where there is just probably a young version of ourselves that's just hurting. And rather than, no, I've got to think positive, otherwise I'm not going to get this thing that I want, or I'm not going to quantum leap, or I'm not going to reach the next level of my business. Instead, it's, oh, there's a part of me that's really hurting. Let me go with compassion and give understanding and support to this hurt part of me, and just follow that thread of the so-called negative thought back. And then that's where the gold happens. That's where the alchemy and the transformation is actually possible. But there's just so much emphasis these days, especially in the healing and spiritual world and the world of transformation, that's really just self-denial and gaslight ourselves and disconnect from that. And it's just not beneficial. And unfortunately, it's really prevalent.
It is really prevalent. The very first episode of The Juice was There's No Such Thing as Quantum Leaping. And I know that there is such thing as quantum leaping. However, as we discussed, not in the way that Instagram sells it, which keeps so many women in shame. I've done the manifestation. I did all of the rituals. I've done everything. And why haven't I got a 50K month? It's just, It's crazy. And the reason why I know this is because I was kept in that shame myself for a very long time. And so I really do feel that with a lot of women. So, and you work with a lot of people around that. I think it's beautiful. It's a level of self-acceptance of, yes, there's some yucky things that I don't want to look at, but look at all the beauty as well. And that's what I love about EFT. And what I find with EFT, it is so much gentler because you are talking to yourself and you are acknowledging every single thought that you're having. Whereas I've had hypnosis before where it's like you're stepping into your next level, and I've got this angry little girl inside going, I am not. And she's just wanting to come through going, you are wrong. And I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you're wrong. And so therefore there's a sabotage going on even as you're trying to heal yourself, because you're not acknowledging the part of you that's hurting so badly.
And where the gold is actually turning to that little girl that's got her hands on her hips and she's like, we are not leveling up. There is not going to be a quantum leap on my watch. And we're like, oh, wow, that like, thank you for telling me your truth. Let's understand what's going on for you. And here's one of the other tricky things is not to just accept or to listen because we want to get something or because we want to heal or change or fix something, but actually just listening and being with that pain inside of ourselves, because that's what's the healthiest thing and the best way for us to connect with ourselves. But if we're only trying to accept, you know, the negative thoughts or feelings or whatever it is because we want to get something or because we want that part of us to change, it's never going to happen. And that's something else that I see people like trip up on. I also realize that you and I are EFT tapping aficionados or whatever that word is, but there might be people listening that don't, they're like EFT WTF, you know? So
true, actually.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is like, don't you know? Seriously. No, I'm only joking, everyone. Jenny, what do you want to, you are the expert. I use EFT a lot in my life, but I'm not an EFT practitioner. You are. So would you like to tell everybody what EFT actually is?
Sure. So there's so many different ways to describe it, but I think one of the best ways to think about it is a way to go into the pain or the negative, to focus on an issue in a way which is not wallowing in it, but to gently focus on an issue while we stimulate meridian points, acupressure points on the upper part of our body. And what's happening as we're doing that is our amygdala, our brain, gets a signal to calm down. And it's been proven that when you're tapping and focusing on an issue, it decreases cortisol by up to 46%. So cortisol being the stress hormone, and it also increases oxytocin. So if you've ever had a really nice long cuddle with someone, then that's the feeling that you get, is oxytocin. And so what is just amazing is to have something be such a big issue. And so let's say if you've got a presentation that's coming up and you're really nervous, and we can tap and focus on the presentation and acknowledge, like Karla and I have just been talking, these parts of us that are really freaking out about it, and bring love and acceptance and understanding to those parts of us. And it's like freaking magic. It just disintegrates the stress and the fear and the pain. And then we can, once we've done that, we can program in new thoughts and new emotions. So we can go from being really afraid of the presentation to actually feeling confident and excited and looking forward to it. So it's a technique which fuses a kind of cognitive behavioral therapy like talk therapy or neuro-linguistic program together with something like acupuncture or acupressure, which makes it more somatic. So at the very surface level, EFT reduces stress. And then when you're working with someone like me that's given thousands and thousands of sessions and has 20 years of embodied spiritual wisdom, then we can really play. Then we can really go into the subconscious and actually rewire limiting beliefs by going back into moments of trauma where beliefs were created when we were children, and realizing, oh, as a child, I did need to be a people pleaser. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult for me to have survived in my home and received love. But now as an adult, I'm actually going to be safe, because even if I'm not a people pleaser, even if I go my own way. And so then we can let go of the pain from childhood and the belief from childhood and create a new belief. So that felt like a very perimenopausal answer to the question of what is EFT, but there we are.
I loved it because when you said that it raises oxytocin, a visual picture of what I used to do is I used to go, there's a beautiful park across the road from me, and there's this rock that, because it's a old rainforest where I live. And so this park has got rainforest all around it, overlooking the coast. And I would sit on this rock that's just coming out of the ground. And it was this beautiful rock, and the sun would shine on the rock. And I'd sit there, and it would be about 6:37 in the morning. And I'd sit there and I'd cry my eyes out. And then I'd do a tapping, and I'd close my eyes afterwards. And you'd always come back into your body and you say, okay, how do I feel now out of 10? And I'd always feel like I've been given a big hug. Always. And so that's the oxytocin. I actually didn't know that. So scientifically, I just knew that it made me feel good. So I want to ask you a question, because as you were talking about stepping into your authority, how has that changed your business model and what you're doing now? How is it looking different to what it used to look like?
I was doing a lot of hand holding with my clients, a lot of doing it for them and feeling very responsible for their transformation. And I have a great capacity to really help people completely transform their life and up level, but they can only do that themselves. And I think before I was more motherly in the, okay, I'm going to take your hand and I'm going to walk you every single step of the way. And if you don't want to do it or anything, then I'll just double down and show up for you 50 times more. And it was taking so much energy. And I realized that I don't need to do that, that actually just being a template and an example and a guide and actually empowering people for them to feel more responsible for their transformation and believing in them, but not like, oh, I have to do this for you, or less hand-holding, like just less hand-holding. And one very small example was after every session that I gave, because my sessions are freaking intense and we go really deep. The next day I would always send a check-in message. Hey, how are you doing? And, maybe I give maximum 7 sessions a week. So I'm like, oh, it's only 7 emails. But somehow, especially bit brain fog, I was forgetting sometimes to send the messages. And then my clients would be like, oh, I didn't get the check-in message. And I'm like, ah. And so I just realized I don't need to send that message. I'm just going to tell all of my clients, I want to hear from you. I want you to check in. I welcome messages from you anytime, checking in, and for, there's some clients I've been working with for a very long period of time. I just let them know the change. But for new clients, I don't even need to let them know anything. And it's great. And it's like, people are just more proactive if they want me to hear about something, but there's just less of this over caring, over giving way of being where it's like mothering, I'm just less mothering and more like mentoring and just holding the pole. So that's the example that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because when you were saying mothering, it might have been going through your mothering stage at that point too, which is interesting.
Absolutely.
We got the maiden, the mugger, and the crone. And as that mother, because when you're talking, I'm saying, yep, me too. And now it's just like, you've got it. And like that I'm still a mother to my children. I've still got 11 and a 14-year-old, but I treat them I'm like, you got it. I trust you. Do you find that your clients respond better to that now? Do you find that they have more inner power or self-responsibility because you are giving that to them? You are creating space for that?
Yeah, I do think so. I think it's more of an energetic shift that's happening. Honestly, it's been in the last few months. So it definitely feels better from my side. It seems like it's really working for my clients. I'm not getting anyone, I'm not experiencing at all that anyone's missing it. So it feels, on an energetic level, it just feels more like I am here as a guide for your transformation. I'm not here to do it for you, and I don't need to hold your hand through it. So I believe it's more empowering for people. Yeah.
Do you turn away people? Did you used to turn away people? You're just like, no, I want to help you. Or now do you go, yeah, I don't think that will be a good fit?
I definitely say no a lot more. I don't know. I feel like I've got very, very special magical guides that organize all of my scheduling and clients, and I get a lot of really good matches. So I've never actually said to someone, I'm not going to work with you. I think there's maybe on a pricing thing, maybe as my prices have gone up, there's people that can't afford to work with me anymore. And there's always that knee jerk, like, oh, I'll just keep the rate the same for you. And then I might do that for a little bit and then just realize this doesn't feel like it's in resonance. So actually, if you want to work with me, this is my rate and my rate is fair. And I've got business coaches telling me that my package currently is $3,000 for 10 sessions. I've got people telling me it should be $12,000 minimum for considering the transformation that people get. I've got people that are like, oh, I can't afford to work with you. Can you do $50 sessions? And I'm like, nope, here's my YouTube channel. You can, as you've just testified, you can have a complete life transformation for free on my YouTube channel. So
Absolutely.
I think I'm still so in love with people's souls. And so, yeah, the no, I'm not going to work with you personally hasn't started coming up, but I'm still in perimenopause. So ask me again once I've transitioned to the other side of menopause, and I may have a completely different answer for you. Yeah.
I think that's a really nice way of doing it, where you've got your YouTube channel, which is absolutely transformational. And maybe it wasn't overgiving, maybe it was setting you up for now. So you did answer this. What is a rule that you broke in the industry that has paid off big time? And I think that everyone's going to know what this is, but explain what happened, what that rule was.
Yeah. So I'm based in Bali. I've been living here for 6 years, and you can't throw a vegan sushi without hitting a life coach. You know, this is an island of life coaches and people that specialize in transformation, and everyone's on the gram. There's so many freaking life coaches on Instagram, and so I've got my besties here, and I'm just watching everyone's building their businesses on Instagram. And so I was like, okay. And I was enjoying it for a while. I found it to be quite creative. And then I started to get really frustrated because I would show up and I would drop what I considered to be absolute wisdom bombs and what I felt was giving a lot of value to people. And I'd get crickets. I don't know, 60 views or something like that, and no engagement or anything. And then at the weekend, I'd be like, shall I wear this pair of shoes or shall I wear this pair of shoes? And it's 600 views, so many comments, so much interaction. And I'm like, this is freaking killing me. I'm done. You know, like this isn't a game that I want to play, even though everyone I know is building successful businesses through Instagram. Like, I'm out. I went on YouTube. So I started recording 10-minute EFT tapping videos on specific topics. So from anxiety to loving your age, to getting over self-doubt, to stepping into your authority, whatever the topic was. And it's so freaking easy for me to turn on the camera. I don't prepare anything. I just decide what I'm going to tap on, and then I just lead for 10 minutes. I've given thousands of sessions. I'm doing it 15 years. So it's like, give me a topic and I'll roll. I've worked with so many clients. I've had my own life experiences. So there's a lot of empathy and understanding on different topics. And so I just guide 10 to 12 or so minutes on this topic, and then pew, and then it just would release it onto YouTube. And slowly, I think I started with 80 subscribers, and then slowly, now it's been over 4 years, and I'm over 11,000 subscribers, all 100,000% natural. I've never paid anyone to do any sort of marketing or anything like that on YouTube. It's really, and I've got fans and people that are just super loyal because, like you've said, it's people really have an experience with me on YouTube and they have a transformation. And so that's really great. So the audience that I've built are very committed, and I'm like, I found my place. Whereas it was like kind of a rule in the coaching world that you just build on Instagram. So that was like, no, it's not feeling good for me anymore. I'm out of here. Like, there's somewhere else. And so, so I found a platform that genuinely did feel good and does still feel good for me.
Yeah. And just knowing as a 4/6 projector, sharing that wisdom with a community, like if you look in hindsight why you chose that, it's absolutely aligned with your energy, isn't it? So everyone listening out there, just because Instagram isn't working for you, maybe you're not looking broad enough, or that there's other ways of marketing out there that is more aligned for you. All right, honey, we're going to wrap up soon, but I want to I want to talk to you about, I always ask this question to my guests. It's like, you get 30 seconds in a room of women building an online business. What do you say?
Drop the competition between yourselves. If there are 30 of you in this room, start to listen to each other, start to support each other, be vulnerable and honest about what's not working in your businesses, ask for support, and also start bragging to each other about what is going well in your world and what is going well in your businesses. Because I think there's just too much trying to keep ourselves small as women, and we actually could use a lot more bragging and a lot more lifting each other up. And naturally, I think businesses are designed to be more competitive, but we as women, I don't think that comes naturally to us. So we can drop that quite easily and actually support each other and stop seeing other women as a threat, and just really, really start anchoring in friendships in business that are uplifting each other. Yeah.
It's actually true, because the competition means that there's not enough for everybody else. Not enough for me, and everyone else is going to take it from me more than anything. And I still think we can be discerning and vulnerable and authentic at the same time. All right, we're going to wrap it up, honey. I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions.
All right, let's go.
Questions. All right. Spill the juice. Quick fire round. Strategy you ditched.
Overgiving.
Nice. Guilty pleasure in business.
Oh, guilty pleasure in business. I was like, someone's deep in a session and they're crying, and I drop a wisdom bomb. Basically, all you have to do is help women feel safe, and then they're going to open and shower you with their gifts. And he just went, damn, you're good. And I was like, yeah. So my guilty pleasure is maybe just dropping truth bombs in the right moment when the client's sobbing their eyes out, and then getting recognized as a projector for the amazing contribution that I'm making to their life. Yeah,
I think it has to be guilty. Most people don't give themselves that brag.
Yeah,
but I think now that we can call it a pleasure and we don't have to apologize for it. So
great.
Yeah. All right, last one is one unpopular opinion that needs to be said.
Only thinking positive isn't going to get you that manifestation. You need to look at the pain and the so-called negativity inside of you to really create the life that you want.
Boom. Everyone, this is Jennifer Harmony. I have all of your links in the show notes. All you have to do is Google Jennifer Harmony YouTube, and she will come up as number one. Go and binge her content. It is phenomenal. You will make big changes. And if you want to book a session with Jennifer, we'll also have the link in the show notes as well.
I almost always have a wait list. So not always, but more or less there's a wait list, but you can get your name on that wait list, and then we can really rock it.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for coming on.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. All show notes and relevant links are listed below for you to dive into. And if you're hungry for more truth bombs and real conversations, follow along weekly by hitting the subscribe button, and you'll be notified as soon as the next one drops. Anyway, I can't wait to be back in your ears on the next episode of The Juice. Ciao, ciao.